Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. My name is Nimesh Radia, and I'm your host. I always love starting every episode by saying thank you. I feel so blessed with this podcast. I was guided to start it maybe 5 years ago. My intention was really to simplify spirituality and guide people on their journey. Started it as a passion project. I had no idea where it was going to go, but I love the impact it's having. I feel so blessed. I feel it's guided. I get so many messages every week saying people find it when they needed it most, and I love that. I love the fact that I feel like our guides guide us to things where we need it most. And if you're a regular listener, thank you for your support. If you're new, then welcome. If you have any feedback, please let us know. I am an Akashic record reader. I'm an Akashic trainer. I'm a podcast host, podcast creator, as well as spiritual coach and mentor. And what I get to do is I get to hold people's space. I get to guide you to you. I get you to understand and release the layers that you've been holding on to truly become your authentic self. I do that through so many different ways, mentorship, Akashic record reading, this podcast. If my voice resonates, reach out. Maybe we're meant to work together. Maybe we're meant to guide you. Who knows? The beauty about this podcast is also I get to interview some amazing guests. I'm excited. I'm really excited to have I'm actually Maria, I think, on this podcast. Apologies, I should know your name better, but I know you more as an energy. But I'd love for you to introduce yourself and welcome.
Hi, Nimesh. And I think you get confused because my email says Marianne and I'm Maria.
Yeah, exactly.
I know it's not your fault. So thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. So I'd love for you to introduce yourself. Tell us about you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm currently residing in Sacramento, California. I have 3 sons who are 16, 15, and 14. And there's just so much about me. The biggest thing right now is that I've experienced stage 4 cancer, which is the most wildest thing I never thought I would ever have to undergo in my lifetime. But prior to that, I've done a lot. I've written 2 books now, my latest one being Sacred Becoming. And it was really a journey because ever since I could remember, I always asked myself, why am I here? And I used to cry as a child and say, why are we all here? And I understood there were souls everywhere. Everyone had a soul. I mean, this is a lot of big themes for a 5-year-old. And I would look at the sky constantly. And every single year of my life, I just never really celebrated my birthday for 2 reasons. Number one, it fell around Thanksgiving. So I always felt like everyone was just busy and I was not very special in that way. But also because it was an annual reminder that there's a reason why I'm here and I don't know what that is. And I will tell you, Nimesh, that now I do know why I'm here. And when you become reborn to that purpose, everything shifts. So I'm very excited to speak with you today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So well, let's go there, right? You said you know why you're here. So I'm curious. Why are you here?
I think we're all here. And I don't like even saying the word think because I don't believe that we should think anymore. I think we should just know. I know why I'm here. It's because I am a light. I am love. And everyone says, I am light, I am love. No, it's not something you say. It's not something you do. It's just something that you are. And as I've journeyed my life in the last 45 years, recently celebrating my birthday, the things and the trials and the people and the betrayals and all the things that I've undergone. And I want to give everyone listening hope because I know that there are people out there, especially on this spiritual path, and they're wondering, why is all this happening to me? All of these bad things. And the fact is that it's sharpening you. It's showing you, it's refining you. You're becoming a diamond. You're getting pressured. And you hear it all the time. And it seems so cliche, but it's absolutely true. It's showing you who you are. The fact that we constantly, look at things and think, oh, now we know who that person is or that person is, and we're judging them. That is not the lesson. The lesson is always found in who you become in relation to whoever's reflecting, a shadow part of you. Because of course, everyone that you are judging you're judging because there's a trigger within you that sees something unkind or not nice within them. And so anyways, my purpose is to love myself because just in loving myself, and I talk about this often in my book, and especially within my No Excuse Mom communities. It's a fitness group for mothers that I started in 2009. Um, it's when you are, especially the mother of your home, the queen bee of your hive, you set the frequency of the entire home. And just in existing, everyone knows exactly where they need to go. Your frequency is safety. So if all the moms could just feel safe, feel loved, feel held, a lot of things would shift because again, our world is changing a lot and it's very
Yeah.
scary. But the fact is that the future is in our children and the children are born from us. We are the container. And if we can not necessarily control the container, but know that we are the container and that all we need to do is to provide a safe, loving environment for growth where they can find their intuition and they know steps to take within their life, then the future actually looks pretty amazing if you look at it from
Yeah.
that standpoint.
I mean, it is an interesting time, and it's that. I know sometimes I trigger people when I say that everything is happening for you, and you're kind of saying something similar. It's kind of like you're going through something challenging. Um, how is it for you, right? So I'd love for you to share a little more about your journey. You mentioned stage 4 cancer, but I just give us a bit of background on what you've been through and kind of what brings you to this version of you. Anything you want to share that's in your heart?
The biggest thing I want to just give people a little bit more background is that I I just like everybody, I'm trying to find myself in life.
Sure.
I was trying to acquire objects and titles that that represented, especially womanhood, or leadership or strength. So I was president of my elementary school. Let me give you that example. I was 10 years old. I became a published writer at that age too. So
Nice.
I was always writing poems and such. And then I became a beauty queen at 16. And I competed in a lot of pageants, mainly because I guess kept winning, and again, I'm not like the prettiest person or the tallest or skinniest, but I was always very I always wanted to win though. And I always enjoyed the experience. In fact, I know that whenever you enjoy the experience, you are always a winner. Because I didn't always win, but I always learned and therefore I always won, right? And then I went through bulimia in my 20s because I realized that I had a new boob job because I did what my pageant director wanted me to do. I competed in the Philippines. I won a national title here in the US and I went over there to compete. And I was just doing things for other people, especially my mother, who had me at a very young age, me and my siblings, all four of us before she was 22. And I just realized at one point that I wasn't living my life, I was living hers. And a lot of things shifted. I gained, 30 pounds, which is a lot for my size. And I just went through my first spiritual awakening in my early 20s. And I understood at that point that the time and day that you're going to die it's not known. So why not live now? Why not do all the things? Because what there's always a fine balance between your will and God's will. Like, we don't know when this time will be, but why are we going to be scared to go on an airplane or to take a risk if we don't know whether it's going to serve us or not? So why not just like me? I've jumped out of airplanes. I've bungee jumped in Thailand by myself on a lone trip. So when I understood that, I became more brave and I had a lot of courage and I started to do a lot of things that normal single women don't do. And then I got married. I had two kids out of wedlock with my ex-husband now. And I say this because I felt really pressured to a certain degree to get married and to start this path because that's, again, I was very culturally programmed and religiously programmed because I felt really guilty. In fact, guilt has ran my life, most of my life. I'd say 44.5 years of my life has been run by guilt. People don't understand these negative emotions that are dictating the decisions that we're making daily. And so I stayed in a marriage that didn't feel good for a long time until recently, like 3 years ago, we separated and divorced. But in between, and this is why everything serves you, is I'm so grateful for that marriage. He taught me so much. And I told him, recently that he's one of my greatest teachers. And that's one of the things that we have to look at all of the adversaries that we have, or the people that don't like us, or our haters. Like, what are they teaching us? And keep in mind, he was not a bad person. He's actually one of the greatest humans I know. We just didn't, what's the word? Connect. We didn't connect in a lot of ways. And so, but I'm so grateful for the life we built and for the sons that we have. But when I was done, I was done.
Yeah.
And what I understood about being done with a relationship, and I know you probably have a lot of female listeners, is that I'll give you an example. So my son recently broke up with his girlfriend, and she was so upset, and he felt really bad. He had a hard time doing this because not necessarily of what he felt, because he felt like she's a great woman, not even a young woman, right? She's 16, but I just know that this is not my person. I don't know what it is. I just know that I need to just move forward. Of course, you're only 16. I'm so happy you made this decision, kind of deal. But then she's sensitive, and she's young, and she's a little dependent. And so she said to him, I wasted 7 months of my life. And I'm like, whoa. I mean, like, did you think you guys were going to get married? Because imagine if you're with somebody for 7 years and you wasted 7 years of your life, or 7 months or 7 minutes. I mean, literally, we can't look at like exchanges like that in life, but a lot of people do. And that's what I experienced after my divorce. And I wrote a lot about it in my book. Is I was just so surprised by this man that kind of shifted during the separation, because I was no longer serving him in the capacity that he wanted me to. And so I just think it's so unfortunate when people don't value the exchange right here. Like right now we have an exchange, we're sharing a connection. We're combining energies right now. And I'm in love with this experience, but I'm not going to expect anything after this experience. I'm not going to hold you to anything after this, but a lot of people do. They're like, listen, you owe me your life, anyways. So I can go into tangents, but I did have a viral image when I was 32, 33. And that's what created my No Excuse Mom communities. That's what created the global conversation regarding radical accountability, taking care of your health, and also just the question of, what do you see when you see an image of a fit mother with children saying, what's your excuse? What is your interpretation? And you should own your interpretation of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to unpack there, right? So
I know.
It's, that experience with your partner, with your ex, that in itself is a great summary of a soul contract, right? It's that you contracted a soul to, at some point you felt aligned, maybe, who knows, but it's not really about it's all about the experience and what you're here to teach each other. It's a co-creation, right? Those soul contract, you had that soul contract, as you said, he's one of your best teachers. Is just that, and it's like we judge ourselves, and I agree, we don't waste time. It's just we go through this experience. We start a soul contract together with somebody, and maybe we're aligned, and then you're aligned at that point. But then over time, you start to drift apart, and you start to, but the soul contract is, again, each soul contract is different, but maybe the soul contract is for you to connect in that sort of way, to feel aligned, and then to drift apart because your journey starts to spread apart. That's what a soul contract is. It's not. It's not a waste of time. It's not good or bad. It just is. But we grieve it too, right? I mean, obviously, it's just, as you say, people deal things with differently, and sometimes we do grieve the end of a soul contract. It's like the old version of you dying, right? And it's like you don't understand it, but you feel the pain, just like you're talking about your son and him breaking up. I'm sure he's he's an empath, and he feels her energy, and he feels what she's going through, and then it's like, well, he doesn't want to be the person to. That's the soul contract they have, right? For him to have that experience with her, and for her to experience, the 7 months and then the breakup. And it's funny when someone says they wasted 7 months, but it's like at 16, 7 months is a long time, right? So then
But
you
why
talk
would you
about
say why would you ever say you wasted 7 months? I mean, I
because
understand that though, because people say
it's
that all the
yeah,
time. I
it's
wasted 30 years of my life. Did you? Like literally, like you
yeah,
wasted? No, we had a
but
beautiful
it's
30 years, like you chose it every day.
yeah,
And
but it's more the way, it's more the ending of an expectation of what your life was going to look
yes, I understand that. And
like. It's and but then who says what your life was going to look like? It's like you haven't wasted. You completed the journey that you were on in those 30 years. May not have matched the programmed expectation of living happily ever after or whatever that looks like in human terms, but you are fulfilling your path in this lifetime. So it's not wasted. But I get you may have had an expectation of I'm going to get married to my forever person. I'm going to be there forever. We're going to, live this fairy tale movie life. And
so I will say this. Um, One of the things that drove me crazy, just in general, is being able to just being able to predict my entire day or my entire week or my entire life. Like literally, if you can tell me what's going to happen, just like shoot me now. Like it sounds so awful. In fact, most people would feel that
sounds boring,
awful
right?
if they were sitting in a room and they could see like, the same thing repeating every single day. And that's what people have done. That's what trauma does. Is they
Yeah.
repeat the same emotional pattern every single year at having the same characters playing it, same relationship, different person. I mean, people don't understand they're doing it already. It takes a
Yeah.
lot of courage to step out of that energetic cage to the unknown, to the I don't know what's next, but I'm focusing on the possibility versus the prediction. And
Yeah.
and that's what we should be doing. But yet a lot of
Yeah.
people, again, like you said, are grieving, and that's fine. I grieved too. In fact, I grieved recently for my brother who passed away last February. And it was important that I grieve.
Of course.
Um, Going back to the soul contract, and I talk about this again in that book, Sacred Becoming, is I understood when the cancer started. I did a lot of therapy, did biomagnetism. In that therapy session in Mexico, she said out of nowhere that it had started in my teens when I was 12. And I was like, what?
Hmm.
And so I have had diaries since I was in fourth grade. So I went home, opened up my luggage full of diaries, and went into 1993 because I had a late birthday. And I saw where I felt extremely unprotected and traumatized by a situation. It led me to seeking men who were supposed to protect me, who wore titles, who had muscles, I for a long time I always dated either a policeman or a army, marine. Is always some type of title that was honestly they weren't safe, but I thought they were.
You felt so, yeah.
And yeah, and so I understood as I was constantly seeking myself and others that they never, number one, completed me. They never made me feel loved or safe or like whenever you're seeking outward, you're never going to find it. But it was in that finding of myself when I was able to release him with love, but it did take a lot of experiences between us where I really was refined.
Nice. I mean, it feels deep, and I'd love for you to talk about the whole cancer experience and kind of what you went through there in that journey, and because it feels like that whole journey was allowing you to build also a deeper connection to you. So I'm curious for you to share that more of that journey, more of that experience.
What's interesting is that when you get hit with that diagnosis, I mean, a lot of my spiritual friends, or people who, and I do this because I could be a spiritual friend too, right? Because nobody is what they are. Um, but even those who are very organic or very anti-vaccine, they're just super scared. It feels like one of the most scariest things that could happen to you. Like you're going to die. And that's how I felt. And those who were totally anti-vaccine, like didn't vaccine any of their kids, were like, "Are you going to do chemo?" Like, Maria, you should, like they were so scared because this is the unknown. And immediately was thrown into this wheel of, you got to do chemo, you got to do radiation, you got to do this and that. I mean, and I had doctors telling me, Maria, there's no such thing as miracles. When I asked them, well, what if it shrinks by itself? Like if I were to do cleanses, all these things, then they'd say, I don't know, but miracles don't exist. And I thought that was crazy that they said that. I asked about nutrition. They're like, well, I can refer you to a nutritionist, but I can't help you there. And I've had both oncologists saying to me, because I've changed oncologists. Oncologist, so everyone knows, is a cancer doctor. They said, if you don't do chemo, we can't help you. And I'm thinking, this is insane. This is interesting that you study something, but you know nothing about it. And so as I went through this journey, it's a very lonely journey because you don't want to join the Facebook groups because they're all they're all fighting with each other. Like whatever path is, they don't, if it's not theirs, then they don't want to hear about it. Right. Yeah. And at the same time, you're open to it because I don't know. I literally don't know anything. But now that I have more perspective on this journey, I can tell you right now that number one, everyone needs to follow their instincts. No one can be, if you don't want to do something, going back to the word force that we were talking about earlier before this conversation began, it's not going to go well if you feel like you're forced to do anything, whether it's staying in a marriage that you really don't want to be in, or a relationship, being at a job that you detest, or doing chemo if your instinct tells you that it's not good for you. And yet the whole world is saying, you got to do it. You got to do it. For me, I'm very basic. I've never been into science or math, but I love quantum physics. But it just made super sense to me, just like the COVID shot, which I didn't get. I mean, if this isn't going to stop it, then why am I taking it? That's how, as basic as that. There's no cure for cancer, but you're pushing this cure. People are dying all the time from this treatment plan, and there's no cure, and you're pushing it on me. It doesn't make any sense. And so it was just a really interesting experience, not only going through the medical system, but also going through my own internal awakening at the same time, not only to the systems of the medical system, but also dealing with family, dealing with friends, dealing with, a lot of backlash from, it was weird how many people attacked me in my vulnerability. But then at the same time, I understood the fishbowl that I was swimming in, what caused the cancer, which was me constantly people pleasing or being around people that didn't truly see me. And so it's just been such an incredible journey, which is why I had to write a book about it, because it was so good. It was so good because it's so filled with so many miracles too. Because what happened was, as I changed all of my doctors to an all-female team, because all of the male ones, unfortunately, and I'm not saying all of them because I have a primary male doctor who I love, I not only changed all of my doctors, but I went on this 12-week plan just to see if the tumor can shrink by itself. And after all said and done, it didn't shrink. And I was just like so dumbfounded. But I also understood that, again, I was seeking outside of myself for answers. And I remembered the day when I was sitting at home and I was exhausted and I was trying to do treatment after treatment. Did I do my IVs? Did I take all my supplements? And I'm running around. And then I realized, Maria, sometimes I cuss. You're so tired. Like, you've hustled your whole life, because that's this programming that they've told us, that if you want something, this is what my first surgeon said, if you want something, you work for it, you suffer for it. But I said to myself, this doesn't feel right anymore. Why am I hustling to heal? Why am I hustling to, that's because that's what I've been taught, that you have to earn it. But actually healing, and just like love, just like joy, is something that is ingrained in you. It's given to you. It's already exists in you. You just have to know that it's there. And once it's there, everything shifts. And so I ended up doing chemo for one cycle. And then I had a deep meditation that the tumor had shrunk, like I was told, from the ether, whatever it was. And I said, ouch. And then I said, well, how will I know, in my meditation? And I heard, you're going to go to the ER and you're going to get rescanned. And I thought, but I don't want to go to the ER because I've had multiple hospitalizations at that point. I don't want to go back. And then 10 days later, I'm back in the ER. The stoma for my ostomy had reversed. And so I had to go get seen. They did some scans and they found that the tumor had shrunk by nearly half. And I was still plugged up to my second chemo cycle. And I thought, this is a sign. I'm done. I am done, you know? And I said to my surgeon, I said, it's operable now. And if you don't do it, then I'm going to go to another doctor who will do it, because I'm taking accountability and autonomy for my own body. And that's one of the biggest things I learned, is that in the medical system, you don't get to have your own body. Like, they tell you what to do with your body. It was incredible. Like, I didn't get a choice what I wanted to do. And I pay private insurance. So I pay like close to $2,000 every month, for insurance, plus copays, plus
and you
deductible.
And you still don't get to choose.
I don't get to choose. Yeah. So it was so powerful. I've had two miraculous, more than two, but where the tumor had shrunk. And it had shrunk because I went through a lot of shadow work. I did a lot of forgiving, because remember, everything in this world is, again, it's mostly energy. And most people don't understand that concept, but we do. And what created the cancer, the only way to uncreate it is to remove that. And so for a lot of people, that blockage stems from trauma. That trauma stems from anger. And that anger goes back to a childhood wounding that if you don't know it and you can't fix it. If you don't identify it, then it's going to exist like an invisible enemy in your life constantly. Yeah. And then what you realize in this awakening is that, like, wow, I had this trauma that happened a very long time ago, but I chose partners and friendships, jobs. I've chosen a persona, to combat that. And that is actually the work, when you realize, oh crap, that's not me, and that's not me, and that person's not for me, and that's where you do
you start to connect the dots.
And I strongly suggest people to go that route versus the chemo route, because it's definitely harder. I will say that chemo is just like medicine. It's definitely hard. You'll lose your hair, you'll lose everything, kind of deal. You might lose your life, but it is, to a certain degree, a quick fix. Like, cancer didn't come overnight. It came from a long time of just betraying yourself.
Wow. So much to unpack there as well. But it's just, and I guess, anyone listening, you've got to choose your own path. We're not here to give you medical advice, just to kind of do that. It's that kind of, you got to trust, to Maria's point, you've got to trust your intuition, what feels right for you, and taking charge of your life, right? But where are you now? So where are you, if you don't mind, if you don't mind me asking that question, where are you in your health journey? How do you feel? What's happening in your world?
Okay, this is a great story. So I had an ostomy reversal surgery in April. And you know what an ostomy is, right? No, it's a bag. It's a bag that diverts your stool to your belly.
Okay, yeah.
And I needed that because I had colorectal cancer. So they had to, cut out my colon, cut out the tumor, all the things. And so I had a quote unquote successful tumor removal surgery last December. And, but right immediately after the surgery, I dealt with a lot of trauma from people around me, immediately from my ex, from former friends, from my family, from the school district, from like the world. It just seemed like at my most vulnerable stage, I was getting attacked. It was weird. And so instead of resting in healing, I was constantly fighting people. And then when my ostomy reversal surgery came on the docket, I went in, and in that surgery, my surgeon found a new polyp right where my old tumor was. And she had biopsied it, and she told me that it was cancer. And it was just like, oh my gosh. They took out like half my insides. Are you kidding me right now? And at that point, I could feel it in my heart right now. I just wanted to die. I was like,
I'm sure you were done.
I'm done. Like, beam me out of here. I'm sick of this. I'm tired of this. Like the biggest thing that I struggled with, to be honest, was finding a reason to live.
Yeah.
Because I love my sons, but they're older now. They're growing. They're going to have their own life. I wasn't around a lot of love. I didn't feel it from the outside. I had to really create it and claim it on the inside. And so and in fact, I would tell all cancer people or all people struggling with anything that it's not in the grief, right? It's not in the
Hmm.
fear, right, of the loss. It's really in the desire and the belief of something better, the desire and the dreaming. It's important that we dream,
Yeah.
that we have faith in something that's next. But if you don't have faith, then you really don't have much to work with in saving your life.
Yeah.
And so I had a lot of, whenever I'm hospitalized, I get very this really interesting state. It's a meditative state where I receive lots of downloads really fast. I always journal. And I heard that, Marie, this is your time. You're going to start speaking now. And I received that download 5 years ago when I went to a meditation retreat. It was the first time I ever heard myself, heard my higher self. And I didn't know what I heard when I heard it. But then I asked my higher self, I said, well, what am I going to speak about? This is 5 years ago. And then I heard, we're going to tell you. And I interpreted it as, and remember, that's why you don't ask anybody else, well, what do you think about this or that when it came out of your own brain? Like whatever you think it is what it is. And what I heard was, you're going to go through something really big in your life. And you're going to speak about it. And I'm like, oh, great. Something's going to happen. Of course, I didn't realize this was going to happen, which was, like the wildest thing. So I had a meditation, and I heard, you're going to create something in this world. And it could be anything. It could be a book. It could be a movement. I don't know that
Yeah.
this book didn't exist 7 months ago. And so I'm like, okay. And then I heard, you got to release, in order to become into union with yourself, you have to release the blockages. And I said, okay, I'm here for it. Let's do it. And then it said, you're going to have to release David, my ex-husband. And I thought, oh, okay, I'm here for that. And so all of a sudden, and I had a perfect hole in my abdomen. All of a sudden, 10 ounces of blood gushed out of me.
Wow.
All of a sudden. And I was like, oh my gosh, I thought I was going to die. My sons called 911. One was putting pressure. I mean, there was I couldn't comprehend rationally why this was happening. And then I asked my son to, also call his dad, because I thought I was on my deathbed. And I had just came home from the hospital just a couple of days prior. And so here we are, the paramedics come, and they say that I have stable vitals. So they keep me at home. And my ex is there, and we have this, and this is all in the books. I don't want to go into too much detail, but basically I asked myself at the end of this situation, because I felt really attacked for a long time from him. And I asked myself, how healed are you if you're calling the person that you think wants to
Mm.
kill you at your deathbed, kind of deal, you
Wow.
know?
Mm.
And I was like, whoa, that's really weird. Why would I call him? And so, I told him in that moment, I said, you got to let me go. Like, I knew it, like energetically, you got to let me go, David. Like, I don't want this
Powerful.
contract anymore. I'm done. And
Mm.
later that week, he told me, I understand what you mean. He said, because I don't need to let you go, because I'm not leaving. Like, I'm the mother of his kids, but he needs to let go of the version of me in his mind.
Wow.
And he said, and because what we do when we judge others, which is why this is like the first commandment, not even yeah, it is. It's, when you love God, which is yourself, right? Don't put anyone above yourself.
Yeah.
You have to know that when you judge others, you're judging yourself. You're hurting yourself. You're
Yeah.
encaging the other person. You're not allowing that person to grow, actually.
Yeah.
When you, and this
They're a
goes
mirror
back.
for you, right? They're a mirror for you. So
Yeah. And that's why in these relationships or in these situations where you don't want to let go again, it's like, if you love them, you let them go,
yeah.
because you already know that something is wrong, or that there's no growth. It's just a cycle, and it just keeps repeating itself. It's not healthy. So we had a come to Jesus moment, and it was incredible. And I wrote him a text message, and I said at the very end of it, I said, so when I asked you, when I asked the universe, how healed am I when I'm calling my ex as I'm dying? And the answer is, I'm healed. And as I said, I'm healed, all of a sudden, my head went back to an MRI scan that I had taken like earlier that week. And I just got the results earlier that day. And I just spread the news to my family. I said, they found a 9 millimeter, possible cyst in my ovary and all of this, and, lymph node, whatever. But then I saw the very first line that I totally did not see the first time. The very first line of that MRI scan said, no suspicious mass detected.
Wow.
And I said, what? I never even saw it. But then here's the thing.
You're going to go through, yeah.
I forgot to mention this. So in my meditation, I saw the phrase, you won't see it until you see it. And this goes back to dreaming, having faith.
Yeah, powerful.
You have to see it in order to finally physically see it. See it in your brain first. Feel it in your soul. So I saw it, the lettering in my meditation, and then I woke up and I looked in my scans, and it said no, nothing there. And of course, it was always there. I just didn't see it, right? And so I took an MRI scan 2 weeks ago, and they gave a lot of wording because that's what they do.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And they said a lot about nothing because they couldn't say anything. It's not what, and this is important for everyone listening. It's not what people say that you should be listening to. It's not what's on the news that you should be listening to. It's what's not being said. What did they not say? Right? Yeah. And they didn't say I had cancer. I will say that. Wow. So I believe in miracles, and that says that to my first surgeon and to everybody else out there. Miracles is actually the only thing that exists. Once you understand and you tap into your genius, your creator self, you are magic.
Yeah.
And I encourage, especially, men, but women, we are the creators. And once we understand how this works, and I talk about this again in my book, I mean, anything is possible. Anything.
I love it. Anything is, and there's so much magic out there. And thank you for sharing your story. It's inspirational. I love it. I do want to go back to something we talked about actually before we started recording. You mentioned it here, is that moment. I'm a big believer that things can shift in a moment. Things can change for you in a moment. So there was something that we talked about before we started recording about your viral post. And you mentioned it in the introduction, but we didn't dive deep. I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about that, is how one moment in your life kind of unknowingly changed things for you.
Mm-hmm. This is beautiful, this question, because people think that it needs to be a seismic moment. Like mine was seismic. I was writing on Facebook one day, and then I was on the Today Show the next kind of deal. And then it turned into something bigger than I could ever expect. But a lot of the times, I love the magic in the very small moments when you can see the miracle in just walking and noticing a plant bud, or the way I've had moments in my life that have changed me forever, in meeting certain people, or getting a word of encouragement, or an opportunity that maybe I didn't feel like I deserved. Yeah. So it's incredible. I encourage people to find those moments today, because again, you are the creator. You can direct that. I will tell you that I have always had the intention to change the world ever since I was little, because I was really wanting purpose. I'm like, I don't know why I'm here, but I'm here to do something. I want to do something. I'm here for it. I want to feel purposeful, not in an ego way, but I want this to matter. I want this experience to matter. It matters. I don't know why, but when you're able to take any experience and find purpose in it, or meaning behind it, that is the magic moment for anybody. It can transform you. I get transformed all the time, every single day. And that's why we shift so fast, is because we release a lot. And therefore, as we release, we receive, just as equally.
And it's being present for the magic, right? Being present for the magic. That's important. It's interesting because when I asked you that question about the moment, I was very conscious, because I feel like a lot of people wait for some big moments, a big epiphany that's going to shift everything. And it's like, so your moment was when you released the post, and kind of kind of went places and viral and all that sort of stuff. And people wait for that sort of thing. And it's like, life can change in a moment, but it doesn't have to be like this big flash in the sky, this big epiphany, this big. It's we appreciate magic on a moment by moment basis, and when you put all those moments together, that's the big epiphany. So being present for magic, you know, social media is interesting, and I know that that's what we talked about at the moment on social media before we started recording. And it's like, for me, the way I see all of it is, I'm just going to keep showing up. And if somebody, if I'm shining my light and I make a difference to one person by something I post or something I talk about on the podcast, and that's great. It's not,
What
we focus on the numbers, right? And it's like, well, just keep showing up, and expect magic to happen. And if you expect magic to happen, what if it shows up?
It's interesting, again, going back to how we're culturally programmed, as we talk about the numbers, as if that equals value.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't.
Quality over quantity, right? It's like,
yeah, it's no. And I understand that. And I will tell you, your small moments create bigger moments. So, for example, I had a blog called Fitness Cure in my early 20s. I just loved sharing fitness every day. This is before social media. I just wanted to motivate people every day. I would always put a new quote every day. I don't know why. I just did it, right? And I remember the blog got, I didn't pay for it, it expired. And so I had to pay $200 to re-up it and get all my content back. But I was thinking, no, I don't know who reads this. I mean, yeah, I could see people coming onto my page every day, but it's not like a huge blog, right? And then I decided, you know what? I'm not doing it for numbers. I'm doing it because, number one, I love it. Number two, because if I help change one person's life, just one person, that makes it all worth it. And so I ended up in that decision to pay $200 and getting my site back up again. And then the very next week, I get a email from someone saying, "Oh, I saw you in Oxygen magazine." I don't guess, but I didn't know what had happened. But they had used my website because they refer a website every single month. And this was when magazines were popular. And this was my favorite fitness magazine. And they said, "Go to Fitness Cure. This is Maria Kang." And And I was just like, whoa, like, had I not put my site live again, they would not go to this site. And it was just, and it was huge. But that's just an example of the moment was when I decided to choose love. Whenever you choose love, magic will happen. And there's a timeline shift that happens when you choose love, when you choose yourself. And it's not about the numbers. And that's, again, numbers are whatever. We can go forever and ever. I could talk everything.
It's like this podcast. When I started, I wasn't even looking at the numbers. If I was concentrating on the numbers, I probably would have stopped doing it, right? And and that's the thing. Magic is in the moment. Let's be honest with ourselves. How much control do we really have? But we can control this moment. And what if we just felt the magic in this moment, and the next moment becomes even more magical, and the next moment, it's just, there's so much power in just closing your eyes and feeling the magic that's inside you and around you, and accepting your magic in the moment.
Well, here's the thing that I've learned, and if everyone listening can do this, their life will change, is to be very present wherever you are. Yeah. So people ask me, how do I do all the things? Because I do a lot. And I have so much energy. It's because when I'm there, I'm there. When I'm here with you, Nimesh, I'm nowhere else. I'm not thinking of anything. I'm not thinking of my ego. I'm not thinking what I want to accomplish. You have to be here. But most people are so distracted. Again, that attention is currency. And so people are either thinking of the past or the future, but they're rarely in the present. And when you're able to operate in the present moment and be very conscious of this moment, because this is the only thing that exists. Yeah. Time is whatever, it's constantly moving. Yeah. It's constantly moving. But if you're able to be conscious and say, okay, I want to be healthy, and I feel that this is the best choice for me. I have to wake up to, I shouldn't eat that burger. Maybe I should eat some salad, just to add a little bit more fresh fruits and vegetables, right? But when you're conscious and it's uncomfortable, right? Because you were patterned. So we're in this
Yeah.
geometry, we're patterned to act a certain way. But when you're conscious of, no, that's not what I want anymore, and I'm going to change the pattern, it's going to hurt at first. And that's where we are in this world right now. It's
Yeah.
hurting at first. We're
It's a
transitioning.
shift. Yeah.
It's the shift. But in that shift, if you're very grounded, very rooted, very knowing, then you know already that regardless of what happens, you're going to be okay because we're
Yeah.
eternal. We're not going to die,
The
and
soul goes
will
on.
we feel pain? I feel pain every day, but pain to a certain degree is a choice.
Yeah.
And if
Well,
you
it serves you,
choose,
right? It serves you. It's That's why I love the phrase "pain is inevitable, suffering is optional." Right? The pain is there to serve you in some kind of way. You've just maybe got to change your question and ask, "How is this pain serving me? How is it expanding? What is it teaching me?"
yes, yes, and that's the difference between somebody who is a victim, right, to life because they've experienced pain from others
Yeah.
versus somebody who's empowered, who takes the pain and they alchemize it into power and into purpose.
I love it. I love it. So let's move on to your latest book, because I know we talked about it before we started recording. So you pretty much you channeled it in 2 weeks, and I'd love to talk more about that experience. What was that like to receive that much information in a short space of time, and now you kind of released it in a book? What was that experience like?
I love that you said that I channeled it in 2 weeks. That's the first time I've heard that. But actually,
Okay.
that's the most correct way of saying it because I don't know how I did it because it is miraculous. Again, going
Yeah.
back to the miracles in my life, um, when I felt the call to start writing, I I hibernated in a small cabin in the forest for 3 days. It was like giving birth,
Hmm.
and I needed to be by myself, and I needed to feel
Yeah.
everything, and I needed to express everything, and I needed to go, And so when I started, it just started. And whenever I couldn't, and here's the funny part, is I didn't meditate the entire time. I couldn't. I wasn't being called to, and I love my meditations. I was being called just to express, to release, to let go. And actually, in my oh, here's my dog. I don't know if you hear him. Actually, with the colon cancer, going back to that, is what I understood is that the reason why I have that blockage is because I wasn't expressing. I was made to express, but I held it in all the time because I didn't want to affect others. I didn't want people to get mad at me. I held the peace. I said I was, forgiving, even though I didn't forgive them at all. And so, the whole process of writing that book was very cathartic. It was just like day and night writing this, and then all of a sudden, whenever I got an understanding of like what I went through, I would get a memory from my past that supported what I was writing. So it's half a little bit of, memoir stories, and a lot of it is lessons, and then there's sacred practices at the end, things that I actually did. So it was just such an interesting experience. And so, yeah, I haven't really thought about what had happened in that process, so I'm grateful for this question. But it really felt like I was just it was almost like I was in a space that I don't even remember where I was. Does that make
That's
sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. That means you channeled it, right? It's like
I
when I
guess
open somebody to
so.
Flashy Records, I'm not there. I'm not even, I'm channeling for, I'm connecting to other people's guys, and that's what channeling feels like. You're not, as a human, you're not really there. You're an essence, you're a vibration. And, that's what I feel like we are. Sometimes we're a portal for that information, and we're meant to share it. And, allowing that information to come through the way it did is beautiful. So well done.
So you know what I heard when as you're speaking is because I never, like, again, going back to the connecting the dots, I never said the word channel. I channeled this book. I don't even know. Again, have a spiritual podcast. I am I guess, a spiritual person. I'm not a title or label person, but I don't, I don't learn about Reiki. I don't learn about Akasha. I love everybody who does it, but I don't speak to my higher guides. I don't even know what their names are, kind of deal.
You don't.
But I
You don't
will
need to.
say, I know. There's an innocence about that. There's an openness that comes with that.
Yeah.
I don't need to know more. I just know that it'll come when it comes, right? And so when you explained it to me, I'm like, okay, I understand now that I wasn't there because I don't know how it happened, because that's how miracles happen.
Yeah.
You don't know how it happened. But
And you
here's
don't
the
need
thing.
to.
You don't need to. And you also, but here's the thing is that all you have to do is have the vision, because I had the vision and I had faith knowing that I would complete the vision. And I was obedient to the calling, which is important. I talk about obedience in the book because there's a lot of things that I did not want to do. There are things that I didn't want to undergo, or people I didn't want to talk to, but I did it because I was told that I should.
Hmm.
And instead of fighting with my higher self, I was very obedient to God, to my knowing. And whenever I walked within my knowing, and it's most of the time uncomfortable,
Yeah.
you will find your path. You will always find your path.
I love it. I love it. So no, I mean, channel. Yeah, it's a human phrase that just I don't like giving labels to things out, but it kind of helps the human to understand things, right? So, so as we get to the end of this podcast, I'd love for you to, well, one, share the title of your book, and two, I'll include your links and stuff in the show notes. But how can people work with you? How can they reach out to you? What does that look like?
Well, my book is called Sacred Becoming: A Blueprint Back to Your Authentic Self.
I love it.
It can be purchased at sacredbecomingbooks.com or on Amazon, and I'll have an Audible book up shortly as well. And I'm very easy to reach, whether it's social media. Well, it's tough on social media because of, DMs. There's sometimes too many, but mariakang.com. What's interesting is that it's not hard to find somebody these days. So I'm sure if you want me, you'll find me. That's the way I see my
I'm
future
sure.
partner too. That's how I
Nice.
see life. If you want me, you're going to find whatever you want, you will find. Trust me.
Or you will find you for sure.
Yeah, whatever belief you have, you'll find something to validate that belief, whether it's in your brain or what's outside of you. And in fact, I was telling my son recently, I said, I haven't been really reaching out to podcast or doing anything to market this book, because I just didn't, I'm just like chill. I'm like, God wanted me to do this. So here I am, like, whatever. And it's very different from my first book, because my first book, I was doing a media tour and all the things. And my son, who's very wise, all of them are super wise. My son said, and this is important for you to hear as well. He said, Mom, your book is not something people see. It's something people find.
Why? Wow.
Yes. And so you will find me. You found this podcast. You'll find me online. You'll find whatever you're looking for.
Beautiful.
You will find whatever you're looking for, because that's how intention works. And that's why you have to be very conscious of that. And that's why this cultural matrix programming is, they're telling you what to look for. That's what they've done to you.
Yeah. And if you trust what's in your heart, if you feel it, then there's so much power inside of you. It's just look inside, and yeah, if you're meant to connect with Maria, you'll find her. I'm sure. I love it. I love it. Letting go.
And that goes back to trusting yourself. Trust, and this is for everyone listening. Trust in yourself, and trust that whatever you need will find you. Whatever you need, you will find. It's already yours. It's inside of you. You create whatever it is. And so when you operate from that just supreme knowing, you are truly unstoppable. And I can only say this from personal experience. I never knew when I was 5 years old that I would live such an extraordinary life at 45. Like literally, I honestly, when I was going through the cancer experience, I thought, why would I ask God for more time when I've had such an incredible life?
Yeah.
I've had like 10, 20 lifetimes in this one life. I've experienced so much, success, so much notoriety, so much. I'm so grateful. But I guess God still wants me here, so let's do it.
You're still here. There's stuff that you need to do, right? Your soul's on a journey, and I love it. So, Maria, I've loved having you on this podcast. I feel like we said it before. I feel like I could talk to you about this stuff for hours. So, thank you for shining your light. Thank you for being the light that you are. Thank you for sharing so much knowledge. And I'm going to hand it over to you to close us out in whatever words you have in your heart.
Oh, thank you so much. for allowing me to close this out. For everybody out there who can feel the vibration in our words, and most especially in this message, from our truest intent, I hope you feel the intention that exists within our hearts, which is to feel your heart, like really feel it, feel that vibration, know that that is your essence, know that that is your strength. And when you operate from that strength, you can do all things because your heart is love. And through love, you will create. You'll create through your mind and through your actions. And in that alignment, that's how you truly manifest. And wherever you are, you have no idea what's next. And I'm telling you, it is amazing. I mean, to have this type of hope and excitement for all of you after having gone through stage 4 cancer, knowing that you guys, the best is yet to come. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it's true. And it's because I walked the path, and I walked it so others can walk it as well. And I appreciate you, Nimesh, for having me here on your show to be just a light within your container. Thank you for allowing me to exist here. And I'm so grateful.
Thank you. Sending you so much love and light. Thank you to all listeners. Thank you for being here, and we'll be back soon. Thank you, and bye for now.